Good wine needs no bush. The finest things in life require no advertisement. Have you ever wondered why some people, the moment they walk into a room, don't need to say a word or chase attention, yet somehow the entire atmosphere seems to shift? There is a pause, a subtle sense of presence that draws respect, not through effort, but through something deeper. While others might strain to prove they're worth fighting to be seen, raising their voices, or trying to win approval, they seem only to fade further into the background, lost in the noise of the crowd. So what is the true secret to commanding genuine respect? Not because you're loud, not because you please everyone, but simply because you show up in your own power, standing firm in who you are. This video, do this and people will respect you. Immediately, command, respect, vertical bar, Stoic Philosophy will walk you through the profound principles of Stoicism, the timeless lessons of modern psychology, and the hard-earned wisdom of those whose character speaks for itself. You'll come to see that respect is never demanded, it radiates quietly and effortlessly from the strength within. It's woven into every glance, every decision, every boundary you draw for yourself. It's not about what you do to impress the world, it's about how you carry your own truth, day after day. If you've ever felt invisible in a crowd, or found yourself searching for your place in this world, or if you simply want to become the strongest, most grounded version of yourself, stay with me until the very end of this video, because sometimes it only takes a single shift in perspective to realize you don't need to broadcast your worth or bend yourself out of shape to be seen. Real value is silent, it stands on its own. And when you truly embody it, the world will quiet down, just to listen to you. The real problem, the hidden truth, and the roots of Stoicism. There are moments in life that seem ordinary, just another day, just another meeting, but somehow they touch the most vulnerable part of who we are. Maybe it's a morning like any other. You walk into the conference room with a hint of nervousness, carrying all your careful preparations, hopeful that today your ideas will finally be heard. And yet, after only a few sentences, you notice the pace of the room slow down, eyes drifting toward the window, a colleague interrupting, someone quickly shifting the conversation elsewhere. Your voice disappears into silence. You offer a gentle smile, as if it doesn't matter, but the quiet sting lingers, trailing after you through the rest of the day. And when the noise finally dies down at night, you're left alone with that familiar ache, quietly asking yourself, did I do something wrong, or am I simply not enough? That feeling isn't just reserved for the workplace. It's at the family dinner where you quietly serve yourself, listening as everyone shares their stories, but no one pauses to ask for yours. It's in those gatherings with friends where you're the one reaching out first, making sure everyone feels included, only to find yourself sitting quietly in a corner, letting the conversation flow around you as if you're invisible. The kinder you are, the more you yield, the more you try not to upset anyone, the more you start to feel like a shadow fading into the background. And the strangest thing is, it's in these silent moments that you're most easily hurt, not because someone insulted you, but because you've lost sight of your own boundaries, unsure of which values are worth protecting. Stoicism, perhaps more honestly than any other philosophy, faces this question head-on. What truly makes a person respected? Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." The Stoics understood that respect is not something you beg for, nor can it be earned by constantly pleasing others or always stepping aside. In fact, it is precisely the lack of boundaries, the forced agreement, the silent endurance that signals to the world you are willing to trade your own values for acceptance. Modern psychology points out that we all crave recognition, connection, respect, but the paradox is clear. The more you chase external validation, the more you fear rejection. The easier it is to lose your personal boundaries and, with them, your self-respect. You become afraid of conflict, hesitant to say no, always putting others' feelings and needs above your own, quietly lowering your own worth in your own eyes. It's as if you're a boat drifting out at sea, waiting for the waves to push you wherever they please, forgetting that you are meant to steer. The Stoics never encouraged you to become cold as stone or run from your emotions, nor did they suggest you accept every injustice in silence. Instead, they remind you, you cannot control other people's attitudes, words, or actions, but you can always control yourself, from your thoughts and emotions to your boundaries. And only when you dare to set limits, to stand for your own values, do you begin to radiate a quiet energy that others simply cannot overlook. This stillness, this self-mastery, this unspoken strength, it isn't something you announce or fake. It's built, quietly, through 100 private moments when you ask yourself, am I really respecting myself right now? And choose to honor that answer, even if it means facing loneliness, rejection, or disappointment. That is why Stoicism values self-mastery above all. Not simply the ability to endure, but the courage to stand up for what you believe in. Psychology can show you the cycle of hurt, but Stoicism points the way out. Practice self-mastery, live with self-respect, set clear boundaries, and never hand over the right to be respected to anyone else. If you have ever felt small, overlooked, or kept silent to avoid offending someone, comment, I've been there. Your story could be the reason someone else finds the courage to pause, to question, and to finally choose themselves. Because only when you realize the problem isn't out there, but in how much respect you've given yourself, does the true journey of inner growth begin. And that journey will continue in the next chapter, where we'll explore how respect is built, often from the very first impression you make. 1. The power of first impressions. Have you ever walked into a room and immediately sensed the quiet presence of someone different? Not because they were famous or loud, but because of the way they stood, the calm in their eyes, the stillness that seemed to gather attention without ever asking for it. Some people draw every gaze their way, not with introductions or noise, but simply with the way they are. I always remember the early days of Oprah Winfrey, when she was just a young reporter at a small local station in America. She wasn't striking in appearance, she wasn't wealthy, nor was she a familiar face. Yet, every time Oprah entered a meeting room, something in the air would shift. She moved deliberately, her eyes truly listened, her smile was slow and self-assured. Rather than rush to join the conversation, Oprah made herself fully present, listening to every word, noticing every movement. It was her stillness that created a subtle, invisible connection. People felt seen, respected, and naturally wanted to open up. Colleagues would say, "We didn't know what she would become, but we all sensed Oprah was someone born to listen." This isn't something exclusive to Oprah. Lady Gaga, back when she was still Stefani Germanotta playing piano in tiny New York bars, carried the same quiet confidence. Her presence composed, intentional, spoke for itself. No big stage required. Elon Musk, as a young engineer, didn't need many words. Just the way he focused, the way he sat, was enough to make the room notice. Long before success found them, each of these people possessed a quality, a calm energy, a self-mastery, a kind of presence anyone could feel, even before they said a single thing. What creates this silent power? Modern psychology tells us that over 80% of our first impression of someone is shaped within seconds, and most of it comes from unspoken cues. Posture, eye contact, a genuine smile, the way you carry yourself into a space, even something as subtle as your breath, your stillness before you speak. Those who possess true presence don't need to perform. It's their inner steadiness, their calm self-control that compels others to listen and respect them even before they open their mouth. As Shakespeare wrote, "A rose by any other name would smell as sweet." True character and worth are never tied to titles, status, or appearance. Those who are truly grounded will always be recognized and valued wherever they go, whatever they do. But Stoicism reaches even deeper than any rule of social etiquette. The Stoics taught that every lasting respect begins within. When you step into a room with calm, knowing your own value, able to hold your emotions steady, unmoved by external chaos, you emit an energy all your own. This is a presence shaped by repeatedly asking yourself, "Who am I when I have nothing to prove? Am I respecting myself right now?" That's why Stoics practice presence before they speak or act. Someone who has mastered themselves never needs to rush or dominate the conversation. Their silent presence alone is enough to change the entire atmosphere. So how can you begin to cultivate this presence for yourself? Start with the smallest habits. Before you enter a room, pause for a breath. Stand tall. Roll your shoulders back. Let your eyes rest calmly and greet others with a conscious smile. When you say hello, stand to meet the moment. Hold eye contact just a bit longer and show that you are truly present. And whenever possible, take a moment to observe the room, to listen before you speak, because sometimes your quiet presence will say more than words ever could. Have you ever met someone whose presence alone inspired your respect? Or perhaps, have you yourself felt the silent power of a first impression in a single, unexpected encounter? Share your experience in the comments below. Your story might help someone else find the courage to show up fully present the next time they walk into a room. But always remember, first impressions are never just about what's on the surface. It is the quiet strength you carry within the stillness you practice every day that lays the foundation for real respect, starting from the very first moment. 2. The power of stillness. Speak less, observe more. There are some people who, even in the midst of heated debates and noisy arguments, never seem to lose their quiet magnetism. They aren't the ones speaking the most, nor are they fighting to dominate the conversation. Yet, by their calm alone, they have the ability to silence a room, making others pause and truly consider their own words. This stillness, this almost impossible to fake presence, makes you wonder, what gives such people their weight? I remember sitting through a particularly tense meeting. The atmosphere was thick with tension, everyone ready to fire off opinions, grievances, or clever arguments desperate to be heard. But at the center of it all sat a colleague known for his quietness. Throughout the entire debate, he barely spoke a word. He simply observed his eyes moving around the room, taking notes on every detail, every subtle shift. Sometimes, his gaze seemed to pierce through the surface chatter, reaching the emotions everyone else was struggling to hide. When the discussion reached its peak, when every voice began to ring hollow, only then did he slowly raise his head, speaking softly but firmly. Perhaps, before we continue, we should take a moment to really listen to each other. The whole room stopped. Silence settled in, and for a moment, everyone looked inward. From that point forward, the conversation changed entirely. We all recognize this kind of strength. Those who are quick-tempered often shoot out words as if speed and volume could win them power. But those with true inner strength guard their words like treasure, speaking only when it truly matters. Calm, composed silence often has a far greater impact than any barrage of convincing arguments. Stoic philosophy calls this stillness. Epictetus once reminded us, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." The Stoics understood, words only carry weight when forged in silence, when they arise from deep observation, not fleeting emotion. Stillness is a power you cannot simply imitate. It is the result of mastering yourself, patiently training, and daring to face your own silence. Only by truly listening, by truly observing, do you come to understand what really matters and what is merely the surface noise of life. Whether at the office, around the family table, or in the everyday conflicts of life, those who know when to be silent, who observe, who feel before they respond, are always the ones who earn true respect. It is an invisible power, a self-control visible in their eyes, their posture, even in their breath. When you are no longer in a rush to speak, you discover you're no longer a victim of your emotions or the pressure to conform or the noisy expectations of the world. You become the quiet master of your own inner space. You can train this power with the smallest habits. Before every meeting, take a full minute to pause. No phone. No hurried emails, just breathe and come back to yourself. When you enter a conversation, set a rule for yourself. Only reply after you've listened fully to the other person's idea. Or, if possible, ask a deeper question before responding. Don't fear the silence. Treat it as a powerful pause where real value has the chance to emerge. Have you ever tried just sitting in silence, observing and sensing the energy in a meeting or during a conversation? Try it this week and share your experience in the comments. You may be surprised at the change that stillness brings, both for yourself and for those around you. Because when you have true inner strength, you no longer have to chase or compete for anyone's attention. You simply show up, quietly present, and respect will find you. And that, in itself, marks a turning point. You stop getting pulled into meaningless battles, and instead, you learn to save your energy for the relationships and values that truly deserve it. 3. Don't dim yourself chasing those who don't value you. There are evenings in the West when you'll see young people gathered in cozy coffee shops, each with a warm drink in hand, yet their eyes drift toward their phones waiting, hoping someone will check in, will call, will ask if they're okay. And sometimes, even in the midst of crowded networking parties, beneath all the laughter and talk, there's a quiet loneliness in those who always seem to be the ones keeping the conversation alive. They're the first to reach out, the ones sending invitations, holding the thread that connects a group, and deep down they know, if they stopped trying, maybe no one would notice. Maybe the connection would vanish. That's the hidden cost of always trying to belong. The more you long to be accepted, the harder you chase recognition, the more invisible you risk becoming. The more effort you pour into holding people's attention, the easier it is for others to see you not as a person, but an option, something convenient, to be picked up and put down at will. I once saw this unfold in a friend back in college. He was always organizing things, preparing food, sending reminders. He wanted everyone to feel welcome, to stay connected, but over time he became the only one trying. Replies slowed, promises faded, his presence started to feel like background noise, and he began to wonder, am I just not interesting enough? Am I trying too hard to fit into something that doesn't want me? Eventually, he stopped trying, not out of bitterness, but clarity. He stopped overextending. He let silence do its work. And that silence revealed something important. The people who truly valued him stayed, and the rest simply drifted away. We often don't realize how much of our energy we give to people who wouldn't notice if we disappeared. We chase validation from those who withhold it. We fear that if we stop showing up, we'll lose everything. But the truth is, what's real doesn't need to be forced. What's one-sided is already broken. For most, the fear of missing out often keeps us stuck in spaces where we don't belong. But what we're really afraid of isn't missing the event. It's missing the feeling of mattering. And the more we chase that feeling in people who don't see us, the more we send the message, I'm not enough on my own. Even unconsciously, others sense this. And the more we lower ourselves, the easier it becomes for them to do the same. This is the quiet law of human connection. What you tolerate, you teach. What you overgive, you devalue. Stoic philosophy offers a different path. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not let your happiness depend on something you may lose." And Epictetus reminded us, "Don't beg for respect, earn it by how you live." Self-respect begins where forced effort ends. When you stop fighting to matter in the wrong places, you begin to reclaim your worth. And in that space, genuine connection has room to enter. My friend didn't cut people off. He simply shifted his focus. He gave time to those who gave back. He stopped pouring into what didn't hold. And in the quiet that followed, he found peace. Real connection, not from being seen by many, but from being truly known by a few. If you're feeling this way now, try this. Make a list of the people you always have to chase, then gently let go of one. Stop sending the first message. Watch what happens. The silence may sting, but it will also clarify. If this resonates, drop a hello in the comments. Let someone else know they're not the only one choosing to let go. Because when you stop giving yourself to what isn't worthy, you finally have the strength to give yourself to what is. 4. Consistency and discipline at work. Angela Duckworth. Have you ever noticed that the people who are respected for the long run are rarely the loudest, nor the ones who always appear on every stage? In America, a country where everyone loves to talk about achievements, the real stars are often those who hardly ever speak about themselves. They quietly repeat the same small habits day after day, waking up just a little earlier, persevering to finish what they've promised, focusing on their goals even when no one else is watching. This persistence doesn't create instant glory, but it is precisely what makes others trust them, respect them, and sometimes rely on them as the firmest foundation for a whole team. Angela Duckworth was once just an ordinary person. There were years when she had no idea what she might accomplish. From being a high school teacher in New York, surrounded by countless unnamed failures, she kept searching for an answer to a question that would not leave her alone. Why do some bright, talented students quit so easily, while those who seem ordinary endure and grow stronger over the long run? Angela didn't stop at just observing. She patiently wrote down her notes, studied in silence, accepted trial and error hundreds of times just to arrive at a crucial finding for the world of education. Grit, endurance, and perseverance matters far more than talent or where you start. If you've ever read about Duckworth's journey, you'll see there's no magic, no overnight breakthroughs. Every achievement is the result of thousands of quiet mornings, countless tired evenings where she whispered to herself, "Just one more time." Every tiny note written down, every promise kept with herself when no one else was watching. Duckworth once said, "Grit is passion and perseverance for very long-term goals. Grit is living life like it's a marathon, not a sprint." Stoic philosophy also believes in the power of such steady repetition. Seneca once reminded us, "It's not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It's because we do not dare that things are difficult." A disciplined person knows that no circumstance is strong enough to shake you if your mind is anchored to your purpose. Like water that wears away stone, consistency in small daily actions is what forms the true foundation for lasting achievement. If you look back at anyone who is truly respected, from an American mother rising at 5 in the morning to take care of her family, to the quiet office worker who always completes the project on time, or the young founder patiently sticking to every first step of a new business, you'll see they all share one thing: a commitment to small things, done again and again, with unwavering consistency, even when no one notices. They don't do it for praise, but out of respect for their own promises. You can train this kind of endurance with the simplest practices. Write down one goal for today and finish it before you sleep. Maintain a new habit for at least 21 days. Remind yourself to be just a little better than yesterday. When motivation fades, when everyone else gives up, you keep going. That's how you quietly build an inner pillar that no outside force can shake. If you are quietly persisting with a goal, a dream, or a habit, leave a comment, "I'm staying the course with," and share what you're holding on to. Sometimes, just one word of encouragement is enough to inspire someone else who's tired on their own long road. But remember, consistency and discipline are empty shells without the most fundamental quality, honesty and integrity with the promises you make to yourself. And that's exactly what we'll open up in the next chapter of this journey. 5. Dare to be honest. Keep your promise even when it's hard. Perhaps nothing commands lasting respect more than honesty and the ability to keep your word, especially when it means facing hardship or personal loss. In every relationship, from colleagues and friends to partners, trust is the quiet but solid foundation, like a stone unmoved in the rushing river of change. You'll notice this in every civilized community. Cleverness may make someone stand out for a moment, but it's honesty and promise, keeping that build a reputation meant to last. Abraham Lincoln, a symbol of integrity, was given the humble nickname Honest Abe, a man who would keep his promise, even if it meant taking a loss or embracing risk. There's a story of how he quietly returned a small amount of change to a customer, walking a great distance simply because he refused to keep what was not his. As a lawyer, Lincoln would openly refuse a case if he felt his side was in the wrong, willing to lose reputation and money, but never his self-respect or the trust of those around him. Even as a leader, Lincoln often publicly admitted the promises he had yet to fulfill to the people or his team. He did not hesitate to apologize, made no excuses, and never blamed circumstances. This is why those who worked with him stood by his side through thick and thin, because they knew a word from Lincoln was a living commitment, even if it cost him, even if it meant losing popular support. Looking back, you'll see there's never a shortage of clever people who make a strong impression, but sooner or later lose trust with just one broken promise, one convenient excuse when things get hard. You know this feeling. You give someone your trust, hoping they'll honor their word, and are left disappointed, sometimes deeply hurt, when they choose convenience or self-interest over honesty. Honor and trust take years to build, but can crumble in an instant. The Stoics have always reminded us, if you speak, speak the truth. If you promise, keep your word. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations. Because respect is never born of image building, but of the courage to take responsibility for what you say. Stoics believe you keep your word not for applause, but to build a fortress of value inside yourself, something that no external circumstance can ever shake. Modern psychology agrees. Those who are honest and consistent in keeping their promises become magnets for trust. This consistency creates a protective shield for every relationship, making others feel safe when handing over responsibility, sharing their hearts, or walking alongside you for the long run. In today's world, cleverness may help you win once, but only honesty and integrity keep you moving forward on the long road. This week, try a simple practice. Commit to finishing something. Even if obstacles arise here, simply keep a long-standing promise to someone, even if no one reminds you. Write it down. Share your commitment with a friend to strengthen your accountability. If you've just kept a difficult promise, comment, "Done," or share your experience. Your story might be the push someone else needs to choose honesty over convenience. Daring to be honest, keeping your word, is the hardest path of all, but it's also the one that makes you strong, unshakable, and worthy of true respect. But remember, sometimes honesty and keeping your promise will lead you straight into unavoidable conflict, and that's where your real inner strength is forged, opening the next chapter on facing adversity and the power of mastering your emotions. 6. Conflict respond. Don't react. Mastering anger. Viktor Frankl. Have you ever felt like you're a flame, just waiting for a single spark to ignite? An ill-timed message on a weary day, a colleague criticizing you in front of everyone, or a thoughtless comment that finds you at the wrong moment online. It's strange how sometimes the smallest trigger can shake your entire state of mind. One careless word, one thoughtless action, and suddenly you realize you've reacted on instinct, instead of choosing a true response as someone who is truly in control. There are nights when you lie in bed, replaying the day, wishing you hadn't exploded so quickly, that familiar ache lingering. If only I had taken a breath. If only I hadn't replied so harshly, hadn't let a single moment of anger crack the whole foundation. We've all felt this, and in those moments you realize conflict is not the enemy. What hurts us most is the impulsive reaction, the lack of presence, the absence of self-mastery. Not everyone can remain calm when the storm hits, yet there are people who, even when pushed to the edge, maintain an inner quiet, refusing to strike back and instead choosing a mindful, free response. Viktor Frankl was such a person. In The Nightmare of the Concentration Camps, Frankl lost nearly everything: family, friends, freedom, dignity. Anguish, rage, and hatred were always lurking, and it would have taken only one moment of weakness to lose himself entirely. Yet Frankl refused to let circumstance dictate the fate of his emotions. In the heart of despair, he clung to a private sanctuary, the freedom to forgive, to choose a human response over being swept into the endless spiral of vengeance and hate. Frankl wrote in Man's Search for Meaning, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." He never denied brutality nor pretended to be a saint, but he held fast to one principle: only we decide our own dignity, no matter the injustice. Stoic philosophy reminds us as well. Life is a stream of challenges. Emotions come and go. Conflict is inevitable, but how we respond is the true mark of character. You cannot control the storm, but you can choose how to stand in it, the ancients would say. Every time you manage to pause, you slowly forge the armor of self-mastery. Try this simple exercise. When you're facing a tense situation, instead of reacting immediately, give yourself a 5-second pause. Simply breathe deeply, acknowledge your feelings, and ask, what outcome do I truly want? If I erupt now, where will it lead? Is there a response I can choose that might make things better? You might be surprised to find that just a short silence is enough to help you choose what's best for yourself and for those across from you. Don't be too hard on yourself if you're still quick to anger. Mastering your emotions is a journey that takes time. There will be setbacks, there will be wins, but every time you choose to respond instead of react, you grow a little stronger inside. If you've ever managed to control your anger or walked away from conflict with a positive response, share your experience below or simply leave a determined emoji to help encourage others on this path. And as you gain command of your emotions, you become strong enough to speak up for what is right, to face challenges without fear, and to no longer be the victim of every storm life throws your way. That journey of self-mastery will take you even further, to the ability to protect what's right and to respect yourself, no matter what the world brings. 7. Dare to stand up for what is right. There are moments when silence no longer brings peace, but becomes a heavy weight, pressing on every breath in the room. It's the moment someone is treated unfairly. A vulnerable person is hurt amid the indifference of the crowd, and you realize, sometimes, all it takes is one voice at the right moment to change everything. But caught between two shores, staying silent for safety, or speaking up to defend what is right, not everyone finds the courage to step into the light. Maybe you've stood at that edge, your heart pounding as you recognize that speaking up means facing scrutiny, risking isolation, or perhaps even making things harder for yourself. I remember a company meeting where a new colleague was unfairly blamed for a mistake that wasn't theirs, simply because no one else wanted to take responsibility. The room was suffocatingly silent, everyone staring at their keyboards, pretending to be busy just to avoid confrontation. Then, a young friend of mine slowly stood up and said, quietly but clearly, "If there's feedback to give, I think it should be shared with the whole group because responsibility belongs to all of us." In that instant, every eye turned to my friend, the only one willing to step outside the safety zone to defend what was right. Knowing full well there would be consequences, no one applauded. There were no words of praise. In fact, my friend faced a difficult road after that work became harder. Opportunities for advancement slowed down. But there was one thing no one could deny. From that day on, my friend was trusted more, became the person people turned to when they needed a steady hand. That respect didn't come from achievements or from pleasing anyone, but from living truth, fully choosing what was right, even when it meant standing alone. This is the kind of lasting respect that cannot be traded for fleeting praise or temporary approval. On the journey to maturity, there will be moments when your own values are put to the test. Daring to stand up for what is right doesn't mean fighting everyone, nor is it about impulsiveness or aggression. It's about building assertiveness, the strength to say no to what is wrong, to draw clear boundaries for yourself, to speak up when you witness injustice, and to act for what is right, even in the smallest moments of everyday life. It's when you take responsibility not just for yourself, but for the shared values of the community you belong to. Stoic philosophy reminds us, the highest respect is not the loud applause, but the quiet regard for those who dare to live by what is right, even knowing the price they might pay. Seneca once wrote, "Sometimes the right thing is the hardest thing. The courageous do not seek safety, but seek what is right, even if it means standing alone." And Viktor Frankl reminds us, between stimulus and response, we must claim the inner freedom to make the most courageous choice. If you have ever stood up for what is right, share your story below, even if it seems small. It could be the spark that inspires someone else who is wavering in the crowd. And always remember, courage only becomes meaningful when you respect yourself enough to protect your own values, because no one can defend what's right if they doubt their own worth. Over time, these moments shape an enduring reputation, making you a pillar for those around you, even in silence. People will look to you when a true decision is needed. And the journey of building this self-respect will continue in the next chapter, where you'll learn how to nurture and guard respect from within before ever expecting it from others. 8. Respect yourself first. Sometimes, in the hurried rhythm of city life, you catch a glimpse of someone sitting alone by a cafe window, their gaze drifting beyond the world, completely untouched by the noise around them. They're not seeking attention. They don't need to speak loudly or prove anything. And yet, their very presence slows time for a moment. That is the quiet charisma of a person who truly respects themselves, a self-possession that cannot be imitated, only cultivated from within. The further you walk along the path of maturity, the more you realize every talent, every success Every social performance is just a tool. Without self-respect, none of it lasts. Because no matter how much you gain, you cannot sustain a value you don't first believe you deserve. And sometimes we try to earn that value externally by pleasing others, proving our worth, crafting a perfect image. But all that effort, without self-respect, only leads to exhaustion and a subtle sense of disconnection. You might even catch yourself reacting in anger, lashing out at disrespect, trying to defend your worth. But eventually you realize that anger doesn't make you stronger. It only exposes how far you've drifted from your center. The moment of awakening is quiet. It's when you realize all hurt begins the moment you let someone else decide your value. When your mood rises and falls with someone's opinion, when you chase validation or shrink under judgment, you've handed over your peace. But self-respect isn't something others can give or take. As Epictetus said, respect yourself most of all. Set your own standards and do not yield them to anyone. And Marcus Aurelius reminded us, no one can take your self-respect if you do not give it to them. To the Stoics, self-respect is an inner fortress, and every word of praise or blame is just wind against the walsenable to move someone who governs their inner life with quiet clarity. Modern psychology agrees, self-respect is the core of mental resilience. When you have it, you're not easily manipulated. You don't chase trends. You know how to say no without guilt. You can set clear boundaries, not to isolate yourself, but to protect the integrity of who you are. And the beauty is, self-respect isn't something distant. You can begin nurturing it today through the smallest actions. Try this. At night, keep a self-respect journal. Write down what you did that honored your values. A moment of courage, a simple no, a small act of discipline you chose, even when no one saw it. Define your personal standards. What are your non-negotiables? What are you no longer willing to trade for approval? Then each morning, ask yourself, if I don't respect myself today, who will do it for me? Let that question anchor you through rejection, through pressure, through noise. And if you're ready to reclaim that strength, comment below. I respect myself. Say it not to prove, but to affirm. Because when you truly respect yourself, you move differently. You speak with less urgency, but more weight. Even in silence, your presence carries a dignity that makes others pause, no because you ask them to, but because they can feel it. And that, quietly, is enough. Perhaps after traveling through this journey, you'll realize the respect you've always sought has never been out of reach. It doesn't come from applause, from glances of approval, or from polite words of praise. True respect always begins within you, from the boundaries you draw, from each choice you make with conviction, from the self-respect you quietly nurture when no one is watching. You will understand that presence cannot be borrowed, strength cannot be forced just to please the world. Every skill, whether it's the way you show up, your calmness, your ability to let go of what's unworthy, your discipline, honesty, emotional control, or courage to stand up for what's right, these are only branches, all fed by one root: self-respect. When you are strong on the inside, that value naturally radiates outward, just as they say in the West, good wine needs no bush. And as Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. 11. If this video has helped you discover something about yourself or given you new strength to live in alignment with your values, leave a comment below. I respect myself. It's not just a promise to yourself, it's a small gift of encouragement to someone else who may be quietly searching for their own inner strength. Don't forget to share this video with friends, colleagues, or anyone you believe deserves to discover the respect that can only come from within. Every journey becomes easier and more meaningful when we learn together how to show up, stand firm, and confidently be ourselves. And always remember, you don't have to put on a show. You only need to be yourself, steadfast, self-possessed, still, and full of self-respect. The world will know when to pause and truly listen to you.